Okay, so module one, research-based assessments. So let's talk about first the types of assessments that are out there. And there are the two big ones, formative and summative. So formative assessments encompasses a far greater range of questioning strategies, paper and pencil strategies, anything that typically allows you to gather information, ascertain information from the student in terms of what they know and what they don't know about the topic or content that you're trying to teach. Now, theoretically, formative assessments should not be graded, but that doesn't mean that data should not be collected from it. So the way I like to think of it, and the way I like to tell new teachers is this. Formative assessments really will give you a far better qualitative measurement than quantitative. So let's take a look at some of the examples in terms of the qualitative or the formative assessments. Number one is the questioning strategies. It's the simplest way to gather information from a student, but it is the most difficult to gather data from. Now, unless you have a fantastic memory, you're going to need to bring along some form of recording when you talk to students about what they know and what they don't know. Now, questioning strategies can be very simple, like just walking by their desk, asking them if they understand the material and to give you an example, or a little bit more in depth where you're talking about a content topic one-on-one with a student. Now, either way, you want to be able to gather that information or record it. Now, what I like to do, and I like to tell new teachers this, is try to remember the kids in your head that didn't understand the concept, because they'll stick out far greater than the ones who did, right? Those are the ones that you want to make sure you circle back to and continue the questioning so that you can get them on the right track, right? We're talking about scaffolding here. Okay. The next one is discussions. Discussions certainly with you, and that can fall under questioning, but I'm talking about discussions as in discussion posts and classroom discussions between students, right? Students will typically learn far more from each other than they will from you, and you'll find that out really soon. But I think it's important from a formative assessment standpoint to facilitate discussions in your classroom and be the bystander that is looking in on the discussions that they're having. Certainly, if they're on task, perfect, but if not, redirect them and understand exactly what they're discussing, understand exactly what they're talking about, and the depth of knowledge that they portray to you. Number three, social media posts. We're in a digital world, right? Especially with COVID-19. It's important for us to understand that kids and social media are far more married together than they were when we were kids growing up, okay? So use social media to your advantage, right? Let the students use devices. Let the students have discussions, meaningful content-related discussions, educational discussions on social media. That way, you'll also have a really good insight into data tracking and how you can use it to your advantage in terms of circling back. And then we'll get more into that in module 3. Classwork is number 4 on this list. It's one of the most basic ways to gather formative assessment data. Non-graded, I certainly like to have grades in the grade book like everyone else, but when we talk about classwork, it really is a way to practice material. And that practice needs to be collected in some form in terms of data management, okay, so you can understand what are the students doing and what are the students learning. Last one on the list for formative in my book is graded or non-graded quizzes. So quizzes are important from a summative standpoint as well, and quizzes certainly make up a good portion of grade books across the country. But I like to use quizzes too in a non-graded fashion, and that's why I put this under the formative assessment standpoint. Non-graded quizzes allow students to dig into the material and have an environment that would count normally, but allow you as the teacher to set up that schedule, set up that standard, and then look at the kids and see what they know and what they don't know. They're going to take it seriously if you take it seriously, right? And non-graded quizzes are a fantastic way to say, gosh, if this would have counted, you would not have done so well. Or gosh, if this would have counted, you would have knocked it out of the park. A fantastic way to get formative assessment data. Now let's talk about summative assessments. So summative assessments are unit tests, end of course tests, end of content or unit tests, okay? They are the nuts and bolts of your grade book. They are the tests that say, wow, you really got it, or wow, you really didn't. And at that point, you as an educator, you still are going to circle back and teach, but a unit test is the end of the line for you. and it's their turn as a student standpoint to show you what they know. Okay, so summative is something that is completely quantitative in nature. Certainly qualitative a little bit, but we're talking about something that goes in the grade book and has a number value to it. Okay, next one in my book is projects. I like to give big projects in my class, and I try to recommend, I encourage the new teachers to do projects because it's a way for you to be more hands-off into instruction from a direct standpoint, and for you to give them information that they can take and run with. So projects would be a summative grade because there's just a lot of components to a project in nature. The third one is state or national testing. Not much you can do with that in terms of grades. State testing, like here in Georgia, they are the Georgia milestones, which are summative assessments big time. And some of them go in the grade book. It depends on what grade they're in. In 8th grade, because they're taking some high school classes, they do count for their overall grade, and not so much from a promotion standpoint. But if it's only strictly promotion standpoint, there's not too much you can do because at that point, the kids are going to be leaving your classroom anyway. But it still will count as an assessment. Okay, and you can use that data for the next year. So part B, data diving. Collection and management techniques. Okay, so from a collection standpoint, you don't want to overburden yourself in terms of, wow, I really need to have 100 grades in the gradebook, or wow, I really need to have 10 different ways that I can collect data. You really should only be using a couple of methods. Now, number one is whatever your electronic gradebook is, that is the best way and the most efficient way to collect data from your kids, because all the summative scores are going to go in there, your quiz scores are going to go in there, and anything else they do from a project or classwork standpoint is going to go in there. And that will typically show what the student can do over time and in a pretty good snapshot. Now, another thing that I like to use is from a qualitative standpoint, I like to keep a notebook on kids. Now, it's not one notebook for every kid, but it's a notebook for every section of kids or from every standard the kids fall into. So I'll have a notebook with kids that do very well in the class, and that's typically not filled up very much because I'm talking about writing down tidbits and notes about what the kids do in a classroom. I've got a notebook for kids that I want to keep my eye on in terms of there's so many more things that they could be learning and so many more things that they could be doing. And I want to keep a notebook on kids that have behavioral problems, right? So sometimes those two middle things, the two last things, they coincide. But often enough, I like to keep one notebook for education, as in content and cognitive ability, and another one for discipline, because sometimes those things need to be addressed from a management standpoint in data, okay? Because sometimes poor behavior leads to poor results, which leads to bad data, okay? Now, management techniques. From a data diving standpoint, you want to make sure that you group together with your PLC. So as a new teacher, you will likely not be leading a PLC at this point. But you want to keep a close eye on how your PLC leader or even your assistant principal manages data diving. Typically what happens is your group will sit down together and you will identify trends in your data based on students. Now, will you be diving into all students? Maybe not so much. You will be diving into the data that the students provide you in terms of either the behavioral issues or the ones that really could be doing better. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next coming modules. Now, part C, what does it all mean? Well, so there are two measurements that we talked about, right? So the summary is formative assessments really give you a qualitative measurement where you are looking for attitudes, behaviors, cognitive abilities that can't be measured with a numeric number, but more so as your feeling for the students, right? Your feeling about what they know, your feeling about how they respond to you. You know, some of your better students, they're going to be always raising their hand. They're always going to be very strong in their responses, very confident in their responses to you. You want to make sure that you understand that aspect, the feelings and behaviors aspect of the kids, and writing those things down so you can get that formative assessment data, right? Now, from a quantitative measurement, we're talking more summative, right? The nuts and bolts of your classroom, the numeric scores, the scores that are from tests or quizzes or things like that. Those scores will paint a very, very clear picture on what your students know and what they don't. Formative assessments, qualitative, it doesn't always paint the clearest picture, but I can promise you that using data diving with your PLC, the qualitative measurement, the formative assessments, they're going to fill in those little crevices and little gaps that the summatives can't tell you, okay? So if you can build up through there, you're going to be good to go, all right? Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I want to push you towards the Q&A section so you can talk with your peers in your PLC about what the next steps are. See you in Module 2.